go. What's up, YouTube? So pretty much I figured I would do a video on DXM or dextromethorphan about my progress when it comes to DXM and a little bit about my story. I was addicted to DXM for about 3.5 to 4 years. I was heavily using DXM probably about 5-6 times a week for the last 2 years of it. I am now clean from DXM. I haven't touched it in about 2 years. It'll be 2 years next month. So since February 2016. And I just want to share my story, a little bit of insight onto potential long-term damage or potential problems that I had once I stopped. So pretty much I was using heavily for many years and up until my 21st birthday. And then at that point I had gotten a fairly serious full-time job, my first full-time job. I was able to stop with no real problems since there's no real withdrawal effects from using DXM. But the negatives are definitely many. I have a really bad anxiety disorder, super bad. I get frequent panic attacks and I'm very uptight all the time. And I always had anxiety, but I believe that a lot of it spurred from overuse and misuse of DXM. Now, if you're someone that's watching this and you use every day, don't think that I'm trying to preach to you or whatever. I simply just want to get my message across because I know a lot of people that are in the position that I was in many years ago, and it honestly kind of sucks. So pretty much I had used DXM for 3.5 years, from August 2012, and then the last time I took DXM was February of 2016. Now, during that 3-year span, I had a lot of shit going on, definitely a lot of negatives from using. I pretty much would just hide out and do DXM alone. There was a handful of times where I'd do it around friends, but most of them, if they weren't doing it, then it was kind of, I kind of didn't want to be present around any of them. Because when you're under the influence of DXM, I mean, it's basically, you stick out like a sore thumb. Your pupils get really big. Basically, anyone can tell. Just by the way you walk, anyone can really tell that there's something kind of off or not right. 3 years in, I found myself at 20 years old with no job. My life revolved around using DXM. I didn't have a driver's license pretty much because I used DXM, and I got into it when I was a late teenager, around 17, and I never bothered to get my driver's license because I had more fun. Now, mind you, when I was 17, 18 years old, my mindset then is completely different from what it is now. Just keeping that in mind, I really just wanted to get high and seek out getting high rather than doing the things that I should have been doing, responsible things that adults do, like get a driver's license, get a job, go to college, something of that nature. So all that time that I used DXM, I didn't even think that it could potentially have any long-term damage. Now, I had done much research about long-term effects of DXM, but it never really sunk in my head that maybe I could be doing some damage here in the long term. When I stopped using DXM, February of 2016, the final time that I'll ever use DXM again, I started to realize a few months after what I could have done to my body in terms of damage. When you're using DXM, if you're doing it in cough syrup form, it is not good for your body. I'm sure everyone knows this, but it is not good. All the sorbitol and sugars from the syrup that you're drinking is just, an absurd amount. And over time, even if your body could handle it well like I could, you're going to start getting accustomed to the sorbitol. And then when you don't take any sorbitol, it might have affected your stomach negatively. Your stomach might get agitated more. But aside from the inactive ingredients in DXM, it's not good to overuse DXM. Your brain is going to suffer a bit if you abuse it. Now that's if you abuse it. I know a lot of people that have taken DXM that are fine. The difference between my experience and theirs is that they only took it, a handful of times a year versus I was taking it a handful of times a week. It's no surprise to me that I would have some damaging long-term effects. As to what those effects are, I notice nowadays that I have more trouble explaining things. I have more trouble getting words out. Stuttering has become kind of a thing for me. These are just things that I've noticed over the past 2 years, trying to compare to before I ever used DXM. I noticed that induced myself pretty much in a slew of mood disorders. I don't feel that I'm ever quite happy, and I feel like part of that has to do with my 4-year span of using DXM quite frequently. When you use DXM often, your brain is going to start to adapt to it, because our brains are always trying to reach an equilibrium state. So when you're just intaking DXM all the time, you're releasing all these neurotransmitters in your brain. So when you don't take DXM, your brain is going to be kind of depleted from those neurotransmitters. In my case, that's what happened to me. I used DXM all the time, heavily, any form. I took Delsum, Triple C's, all of it. After I stopped, I noticed that I went into this really dark, depressive state. I have trouble feeling emotion now, more trouble than I used to. Can't cry nowadays. I find it's a lot harder for me to cry than before. I feel like DXM has kind of taken a part of the old me and kind of just warped it and transformed it, and kind of I won't really ever be the same. I've kind of gone on a rant about all the negatives. Now, it's not entirely negative. I have noticed that I'm still just as mentally capable and mentally intact now compared to then, before I started using DXM. The only thing I could really think of is emotion, trouble kind of trying to put words together, and stuttering, and maybe short-term memory has been affected a little bit more since I used DXM. I wouldn't really wish DXM abuse on anyone, because it can be a dark road. Eventually, like anything, we have to stop. You have to realize there's a certain point in your life when you sit there and say, okay, I'm this years of age, I'm still doing the same thing that I was doing X amount of years ago, aka DXM. Do I really want to be taking this for the rest of my life? And I had to sit down and tell myself, okay, listen, these are things that I need to do. It's not going to be fun. But after many years of abusing DXM, I had to tell myself I have to stop. I have to grow up. I'm never going to grow up if I'm doing DXM. Because in my opinion, DXM is one of the best highs for my personality type. I could basically just be completely content with being by myself and not needing anyone. DXM it's kind of a difficult road to go down if you're using it daily, and I wouldn't recommend it. Some of the other positives I've seen is that my life has greatly improved. My quality of life is more consistent now. It's not necessarily fun and games now, but I have a full-time job, I have a license, I have a car, things that I worked for. Once you get off DXM, your ability to be able to acquire things that you kind of need in life is going to go up. You're going to be able to do those things. But for me, in my personal experience, while I was abusing DXM, it wasn't necessarily the easiest thing to sit there and want to take a road test, because I wanted to chase DXM. I wanted to chase the high. I wanted to keep going. But eventually it got to a point where it just wasn't getting me really high anymore. I mean, it would get me high. Lost the magic basically completely the last time I did it. And I used to take a lot of Triple C's, anywhere from 8 to 32 I've taken. Those were the most convenient, those were the most easy to take, despite the fact that there's CPM in Triple C's, which is really, really bad when you take CPM in high doses. Just terrible. It almost burns you out in a way. So I was taking a lot of DXM. 2 years later, just about, no DXM whatsoever. I feel that I'm pretty stable, but I have tendencies to be wicked depressed and pessimistic. I almost feel like had I not used DXM, that I maybe would have been more intelligent, more capable to process things, memories. At the end of the day, you can't pity yourself, and you just have to move on. Life experiences, that's what happens. You have to live and learn, move on to the next. And so that's what I did, and it hasn't really been bothering me at all. But I have noticed there's these potential things in my life, such as short-term memory and anxiety. I feel like I brought them on by continuously abusing DXM, and part of me regrets ever using DXM for this fact. I haven't used DXM in 2 years and don't feel the need to, But I just wish, had I not to begin with, then I wouldn't be dealing with these things that I am now in my life. That's basically an update on DXM. I made a video on a different channel about DXM a couple years ago. I just wanted to give an update about DXM pretty much, potentially reach people who are struggling. That's the whole goal. I mean, you live and learn. If you abuse DXM, or if you're someone who does DXM maybe more than they think they should, and you're still early into it, say 6 months to a year, not even, if you just started using DXM maybe 3 months ago, listen to me when I say this and think to yourself, do I want to really suffer long-term damage from doing DXM? If you abuse DXM for long enough, you're going to suffer these minor consequences, and think to yourself, just like I did, had I not used DXM all these years ago and abused the shit out of it, would I be a better person now? Would I be more intelligent, more sharp, more aware? These are the things that I think about all the time in my life, and maybe what could have been. As we're adults, we can't really focus on what could have been. We just have to live and learn and move on. And so in the case of DXM, that's what I did, because I have no plans of taking DXM ever again in my life, because it brought me negative things in my life. I love DXM. It was like my girlfriend. It sounds silly, but it was literally like it was a partner. It was someone that I shared life with. Had it not been for DXM, I wouldn't have had a bunch of great memories, but at the same time, I would easily trade in those memories for, sharper thinking, less stuttering, able to get words out, less anxiety, and just an overall better life without depression or any mood disorder kind of getting in the way, which I feel like was brought on by overusing DXM. I just wanted to make this video as an update. If you are still using DXM and want to contact me about what you should do to stop, because for me, I find it was a bit easy for me to stop once I got a job. The job definitely kept my mind off the DXM, and I didn't want to use nearly as much. But if you want to reach me, I will leave a link, or you can message me on YouTube for that link. I'll definitely get back to you as soon as I can, because I feel where you're coming from, and it's not easy. It's not easy to quit DXM. Once you're in that realm, once you're in that lifestyle that revolves around DXM and you love it and it helps you, then I understand where you're coming from, and it is not easy whatsoever to stop using DXM forever. In my case, I can't speak for tomorrow, but right now I don't use DXM, and every day that I wake up I'll tell myself that. But if you have any questions, send me a message on YouTube and I'll try my best to get back to you. This was just a video on DXM. I wanted to make an update because a lot of people watched my previous one. This one is going to be better quality, and hopefully you can get something out of it. Don't lose hope. Tackle every day that comes at you, and have faith in yourself. Those things right there can really help you just take it easy if you are planning on quitting DXM. It's no easy task, but it can be done. Alright, so that's all. I'll see you guys later, and I hope everyone has a nice night, evening, or day if they're watching this, wherever you guys are. That's all. Alright, later.